Alright, so good things. Your reach is pretty good, the forward reach. You're keeping your head pretty low while you swim. Body position is pretty good. Hips and legs are not too low. You have a leisurely kick, which is no problem for a triathlon. Leisurely, it's a 6-beat kick, so you could work on making that even easier. So with the forward reach, one thing I can notice is that while you're extending pretty well, there's some potential room for improvement where at the apex of the extension, your shoulder should be sort of right next to your cheek or right next to your ear. So that could be some continued practice with reaching forward and flexibility. The catch mechanics itself, you'll see better on the underwater portion, but what you're doing is what most coaches would call a straight arm catch or a straight arm pull, meaning that the angle of your forearm and your upper arm remains the same throughout the stroke. What you want to move towards is something called the high elbow catch or the early vertical forearm. You may be finishing the stroke slightly early. So your recovery is good, your arms aren't too low in the water. Your torso and hips and legs are staying in the same line, which is a good streamline. That means you're not wobbling back and forth or anything. And then the direction or the point that you're extending to is correct, meaning your left arm extends in front of your left shoulder or slightly wide of that point, and your right arm extends in front of your right shoulder. What you see here is a lot of people crossing over, and you're not doing that, so that's good. Alright, so underwater, you can see how your hand enters and then immediately starts pulling through. You can see a little bit of that space between your shoulder and your head, or your cheek that I was talking about at the beginning of the stroke. And you can also see the straight arm pulling mechanics. So one at a time, things you would work on. Number one would be extending your reach and possibly even delaying, right? So glide slightly, so you're not immediately pulling. And then part two would be working on that vertical forearm through the drills that we discussed, primarily one arm drill and the fist with paddle drill. Those two drills are all about improving your catch angle. I'll put a couple still screens at the end of the video showing you this, but if you were to look at this in slow motion, which I think you can do by slowing down YouTube, you'll see that your upper arm and your forearm are staying in mostly a straight line, both left and right side. And when you go to that vertical forearm, your upper arm would still be pointed forward in the pool, but your hand and forearm would be perpendicular to the bottom. And so that's really what you want to get to. So the kick, looking at the kick, you can see that there's a fair bit of lower leg kicking, meaning you're not quite initiating the kick from your hip, at least at the moment. So when you kick, you want that kick to be initiating from the hip, like you're kicking a soccer ball off the top of your foot. You've got a lot of kind of just flutter with the feet. So the kick is also something you can work on. You should use a kickboard and do kick sets. Here, very good. Your stroke path is directly back or mostly directly back. Your hands enter in front of your shoulder. Very good. Okay, so what's going on here is you have a bit of a straight leg, so you want a little more flexion through your knee. That seems a little better to me. So doing one arm drill here, trying to get a little more reach, which is what we worked on first. So you're actively trying to extend forward. Cues for this are your shoulder rubbing against your ear or your cheek and feeling like your lat back muscle is all stretched as far as possible. You want to do that every stroke in freestyle swimming. Reach as far as possible because you get more pull with each stroke, which adds up over time. On this particular one, on the one prior, I wasn't having you focus on the catch mechanic. Here, this was swimming, just trying to reach forward as well as possible. For this, if you look up catch up drill, which is a form of drilling where your hands stay in front of you until the other hand enters the water, that could be helpful. You could use a pull buoy while you're doing these, or fins. Pull buoy would be better though. So this is good. You're reaching more forward. I know it feels awkward when you make a change like that, but that's definitely part of improvement. All right, and here I think this is where we tried to work on the vertical forearm or the catch. So you enter, and then that was pretty good right there. Always remember to internally rotate or shrug your shoulder forward. So it's reach, shrug your shoulder, and then start your pull, doing the best you can to angle your hand and forearm down perpendicular while your upper arm is still extended forward. It's a 4/10 of a second movement, but when you get it, you'll notice a significant improvement in your power in your stroke. Your pulling power is fine, so you don't have any issue there. It's just you want to maximize your technique now. Doing variations on the workouts that I sent is going to be very helpful. So when you just swim straight, it is fine for endurance, but it doesn't do anything for your speed or power development. And you're at a point with your swimming where you definitely should be doing speed and power development. Like 9 100s, descending 1 through 3, 4 through 6, 7 to 9, where 3, 6, and 9 are as hard as you can go, or almost as hard as you can go. Sorry, my dog is making noise in the back there. So this one is focusing on the finish of the stroke. We noticed in the underwater that your hands were often turning towards your torso earlier than they should. So the phases of the stroke, you have the recovery out of the water, extension, which we've talked about, and then the catch, which is basically the first half of the stroke, and then the push through is the second half of the stroke. The catch is more important. Having a really good catch is the best thing you can do, other than your streamline. But the finish of the stroke is also a fairly large piece of the puzzle. So that was good. Good. All right, so this one, I asked you to focus on reaching as far as you can, as well as pushing through on the opposite side. So this is throwing off your timing somewhat, I can tell. So maybe we'll keep these separate, or as separate ideas. Sometimes if you try to think about too many things that are new, it makes it a little funky. So this is doing fist with paddle. The focus here is trying to get the best vertical forearm or high elbow catch that you can. Having the paddle on your forearm gives you a little more sensation as to that surface area, because the hand is obviously the primary pulling, but the forearm, it's not as sensitive, but it also has as much surface area as the hand. So you're using both as your paddle through the water. So a bit of a freeze frame so you can see what's going on. Entering, angling down fairly quickly with the hand and forearm, where if you work on the extension you would go more forward right there. And then your upper arm, forearm, hand, one line, moving through the water together. So this is the second best way to pull, the straight arm pull. What you would want to see right here and in this next frame is the hand and forearm already straight up and down. The difference is the water is being pushed downward instead of backward. So that's the improvement. Water goes back more quickly in the stroke, meaning you are pulled forward more quickly in the stroke. The finish of your stroke is fine. I think on a couple of them your hands had turned inward, but on this particular one you're doing a good job pushing all the way through. So I hope all this helps.